Ted Cruz was in a committee hearing the other day, and here he is with his critique of corporations from an anti-capitalist perspective. No, they're too woke.
We'll turn now to Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome to each of the witnesses. Dr. Rao, more and more we're seeing a dangerous shift in America where woke corporations are acting as the political enforcers for partisan Democrats. And we're seeing more and more CEOs weigh in on political matters and use their corporate power to try to punish anyone who doesn't agree with a radical policy agenda. In your judgment, is it in the shareholders' interests for woke corporations and their CEOs to use their market power not to provide the goods and services the company is focused on, but instead to enforce a partisan political agenda?
Pause it, please.
Pause it, right.
Pause it. So Ted Cruz had zero issue with these corporations exercising their leverage and their market capabilities, being political enforcers on behalf of capital, on behalf of the wealthy, which is exactly how they exert their power 99.99999% of the time.
Or even things like keeping gay people from marrying.
Yeah, interesting, because Disney only just reversed its policy on donating to politicians in Florida on the state level in the wake of this anti-gay, don't say gay bill that is being pushed through the Florida state Congress. So that's they were even reluctant to stop using their market power in that instance. So I think that evens out the wokeness, wouldn't you say?
The thing is, though, this is a labor issue because you have people. So what's going on with Disney is, Brad, the cut to. Yeah. The previous Disney CEO was more active in these sort of social justice things, and the new one has been cool about it, as DeSantis and all these people are doing this extreme anti-gay stuff. That is not a good way to keep your employees happy. For instance, that's a Pixar, and they are extremely upset by the and that's a great use of your power as workers to try to use these hold these people accountable. And so that's what Ted is complaining about. It's not the woke CEOs. It's these CEOs that have to respond to their demands of their workers, or their workers are going to get really unhappy. And Disney can't afford to lose a thing like Pixar going into the future.
Oh, no.
Like streaming. And so I think, and that's, these things are always like portrayed as if it's like some woke CEO trying to do like nefarious pro-Democrat stuff to you. This is about workers.
And he's also stealing from, just really quick, he's stealing from Tucker Carlson, who is deliberately and I think very maliciously trying to conflate elites and where power actually is, which is with capital, and to make profit for the wealthiest people in this country, and conflating that with cultural hegemony or the right thing to do, or the acceptance of people. So this is downstream from that kind of that distortion.
Right, and to answer his question about is this
a classic case of what we call in economics a principal agent problem? The shareholders are the principals, and they hire the managers.
Sorry,
I'm sorry.
That's all right. I was going to say
on the wrong channel, so I couldn't hear you, Binder. My bad.
No problem. I was going to say, oh my God, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, I was going to say. But to answer, with all that said, to answer Ted Cruz's question, though, yes. I mean, that's why they do it. If it wasn't in the interests of their money-making abilities and thus shareholder interest, then they would not be doing these things. They make the calculation that, hey, we could donate to these politicians and no one will care. And then when people start to care, then they have to adjust that calculation and go, oh, this is going to hurt our business. We have to start caring, or vice versa if it works the other way around. But yes, it is always in the interest of profit. They don't actually all of a sudden wake up in the morning and say, Disney's going to go under because I got to stand up for LGBT rights. No, of course not.
I mean, it's illegal in this country not to deliver for your shareholders. Like Dodge v. Ford Motor Company basically enshrines that in law. But keep going, Brandon.
No, I was like, this is the funny part about like this kind of critique, and it's something that like what you're talking about Disney or right wingers complaining about like Trump being kicked off Twitter. It's like, this is the only time they complain about capitalism, and when it's sort of gesturing towards inclusivity of groups that are traditionally like not included, and then it just becomes a type of mental gymnastics they have to do to try to like basically rephrase some kind of tyranny of the majority argument, from like the founding of our country, in the sense that like what they're really complaining about is that now they're afraid that companies like Disney, companies like Twitter have to account for like the feelings and sentiments of their customers, which now include LGBTQ people, Black people, women, any number of people who have been traditionally like left out of markets and left out of those conversations. And that just inherently means that they're like the value system that they represent is less emphasized, and sometimes just in direct opposition with it. And trying to carve out some kind of special capitalism that always is in favor of maintaining white supremacy, they're in favor of that, but they just can't make it like known publicly that that's what they're arguing for.
Exactly. Let's play a little bit more, and I just want to clarify that this is from a meeting on the Joint Economic Committee, and the witnesses who Cruz is speaking to is a Hoover Institute fellow.
Right, the COVID deniers.
Yeah.
A partisan political agenda.
It's not partisan.
Well, I think
here.
this is a classic case of what we call in economics a principal-agent problem. The shareholders are the principals, and they hire the managers, CEOs, as their agents to act on their behalf. This is no different in a startup or a private company. People on the committee have business experience starting their own businesses. If you hire a manager, that manager is your agent and working on your behalf. And so when you have a situation where the manager, the CEO, the executive, who does not own the company, who is an agent of the owners of the company, is taking actions to impose their own political agenda, then
again, the idea that this is the CEOs and not they're responding to the demands of their workers who are upset that they're sitting on the sidelines as fascists attack gay people is a huge dot. It's a huge tell that this is where the Hoover guy goes. Just a little bit more here.
Impose their own political agenda, then I think that is a major failure of governance and a major failure of accountability. And I think that is actually quite a dangerous thing.
Quite.
So I would recommend that if those principals, as they call it in America, they principals, I think, in my opinion, I'd like to make those the workers, but I guess it's the people who own the company and can hire the CEOs. Fire the CEO and put an anti-woke one in there and see what happens to Pixar. See what happens to the rest of your labor force. See how they weather that. And the answer is that you can't do that because it would cause a rebellion.